Hey everyone, Nigel and Luke here, and welcome to another edition of Crimes of the Week International. Representatives from the Royal Thai Police say that a 31-year-old man is in custody this week after he led officers on a dramatic and dangerous vehicle chase in a stolen truck. According to reports, the incident began at around 8:30 p.m. on June 28th, when officers at the Maptaput police station received a call about a stolen truck at a local auto repair and service company. Witnesses told authorities that they had seen the suspect, later identified as 31-year-old Aditep Polpatak, hop into a white Isuzu truck that had been left momentarily running on the company's property before driving off. A short time after this report came in, the truck was spotted driving in downtown Rayong city, where police attempted to make a traffic stop. However, Aditep reportedly ignored officers' orders, instead striking a patrol car so that he could make an escape, initiating a pursuit. The chase reportedly continued for some time, with Aditep allegedly pulling off a series of destructive and dangerous maneuvers to try and avoid capture. At one point, he apparently rammed into roughly 20 cars that were waiting at a red light in order to make his way through an intersection. Police allegedly responded in similarly dramatic fashion, shooting out 8 of the truck's 10 tires in an attempt to bring it to a stop. Witnesses say that their bullets ended up striking several civilian vehicles in the process, though thankfully no people appear to have been hit. One onlooker likened the events to a scene in an action movie. The incident finally came to an end when police were able to corner the stolen truck, which lost control and skidded into a grassy median off of a highway about 18 miles from the original crime scene. Even after this, police say that Aditep refused to cooperate, though he was eventually forced from the truck and placed under arrest. At the time of this recording, it appears that authorities have yet to file formal charges against the 31-year-old, though these are expected to come soon. It's unclear what motivated Aditep to carry out the crime, though it's said that he was actually an employee of the company where the truck was stolen. He had apparently been working there for just 2 days at the time of the incident. Authorities in South Australia released a disturbing statement in connection with the deaths of an elderly couple this week, saying that they now had reason to believe that they were the victims of a double murder. According to reports, 94-year-old great-grandparents Brenda and Linton Anderson died almost 1 year apart after coming down with sudden medical issues. Because of their ages, no one initially thought anything of it. That was, until authorities started to take a second look at toxicology reports and noticed eerie similarities. The whole thing began in March of last year when Brenda was being treated for medical issues at Noarlunga Hospital. While there, her condition only grew worse, and she was transferred to Flinders Medical Center before ultimately passing away. During a routine examination following Brenda's death, coroners noticed something on her toxicology report that didn't seem to make sense. There were undisclosed abnormalities with the medication in her system. Fast forward to April 30th of this year, when Brenda's husband Linton was found unconscious by a carer at their home in the Adelaide suburb of Hackham. He too was taken to Flinders Medical Center, where he died the following day. And, just like with Brenda, when coroners took a look at Linton's toxicology report, they allegedly found medications that apparently shouldn't have been there. Police say that following the second death, they were able to rule out all innocent explanations for the medications found in Brenda and Linton's systems, and now believe that they were deliberately poisoned. In terms of who is responsible for the alleged double murder, authorities say that they now have a suspect. They say that an extensive investigation has ruled out any carers or hospital staff, and that instead they believe the culprit was someone close to the victims. As for who this person is, so far police won't say. In a statement, all they told the public was that the suspect would have had a close enough relationship with Brenda and Linton that they could have been visiting them while they were in the hospital. At the time of this recording, authorities say that they are still investigating and are asking members of the public who might have any information about the case to come forward. In particular, they're looking to speak to anyone who might have knowledge of both the prescription and non-prescription medication Brenda and Linton were taking prior to their deaths. Authorities in the Indian state of West Bengal say that a man is facing murder charges this week, more than 3 years after the sudden disappearance of his wife. According to local media sources, the case began back in March of 2020, when the victim, Tumpa Mandal, was reported missing by her father, Laxman Halder. A month later, Tumpa's husband, Bambal Mandal, was arrested in connection with the disappearance. However, he was released after police were unable to find any evidence that a crime had been committed. Convinced that something wasn't right, Laxman reportedly appealed to the state's High Court in Kolkata, asking for a higher authority to reinvestigate. The plea was successful, and the case was assigned to West Bengal's Criminal Investigation Division on June 13th of this year. Within 10 days of taking over the case, the CID managed to obtain a confession from Tumpa's husband, Bambal, who allegedly admitted to murdering his wife. He reportedly told investigators that he had suffocated Tumpa with a pillow at the rental house they used to live in West Bengal's South 24 Parganas district. During a subsequent search of the property, authorities sadly recovered Tumpa's skeletal remains from her home septic tank, along with several identifying belongings which had been hidden there. At the time of this recording, Bambal Mandal is now facing murder charges and remains in custody. Officials say that they suspect the crime was motivated by Bambal's suspicion that his wife was having an affair. An elementary school in Malaysia has reportedly come under serious public scrutiny this week, following allegations that one of their teachers locked a young student inside of an iron cage as a disciplinary measure. According to reports, news of the situation broke on June 27th when a social media user referred to only as Azwan shared screenshots and pictures on Twitter related to the incident. The images were reportedly taken from a WhatsApp group chat between parents and staff at his young son's elementary school, which is located in Rembau district in the state of Negri Sembilan. Azwan said that he and other parents became concerned after learning that a teacher in his son's first grade class had punished one of his students by locking him inside of an iron cage at the school, which appears to resemble a jail cell. In the text exchange, the teacher allegedly admits to putting him in the cage, saying that the 7-year-old boy was being disruptive in class. Azwan's post quickly went viral, with many across the country becoming outraged after hearing what had happened. Understandably, many also wanted to know what a cage like this was doing at the school in the first place. It doesn't seem like there's a definitive answer to this, though some reports state that the cage had been constructed as part of an exhibition for the school's anti-drug program. Azwan, however, provided a more disturbing explanation, claiming that the cage also housed an electrical panel. If true, this would seem to be yet another reason not to leave a child unattended inside it. For their part, the school claims that it has since met with the parents of the boy involved in the incident, and everything has been sorted out. Police also say that they are aware of what happened, though it remains unclear if a formal investigation into the situation will follow. Authorities on the Indonesian island of Bali say that a college student found himself in hot water last week after he made what can only be described as an idiotic joke aboard an airplane that ended with him in handcuffs and dozens of angry passengers forced to disembark. According to reports, the whole thing unfolded on the morning of June 15th when passengers were in the middle of boarding Super Airjet flight IU-787 at the Denpasar International Airport. It was about 6:20 a.m. in the morning, and people were in the process of stowing their carry-on baggage in the overhead bins when a flight attendant walked up to the young man in seat 24E. The flight attendant proceeded to ask the man, identified only as a 23-year-old college student named Ricky, what was in his bag. While sources don't mention why the attendant was questioning the 23-year-old, we do know what happened next. He sarcastically responded that it was a bomb. While it was clear to everyone involved that this was a joke, unfortunately it's 2023 and we all live in hell, so understandably, you can't be too careful. As a result, the flight attendant was required to report what Ricky had said to the captain, who was in turn forced to make everyone get off the plane so that all of the baggage on the entire flight could be checked once again. Though this was undoubtedly a huge pain in the ass for everyone on the flight, I mean it was 6 a.m. after all, they did eventually get to take off. As you might imagine though, Ricky was not with them. By this point he had been arrested by aviation security officers. It's unclear if he was actually charged, though sources state that if police do decide to pursue the case, he could be looking at a year in prison. As someone who definitely appreciates sarcasm as well as a good joke, I have to say even I think this was obviously a stupid thing to say. You gotta pick your moments, and by now pretty much everyone on the planet should know that you can't really f*** around when it comes to security and air travel. Then again, it seems like every week there's a new story about someone doing something clownish aboard a plane, so perhaps I'm wrong. In any case, I do hope that Ricky gets off with a warning. Authorities in Cambridgeshire, England say that a hapless burglar has been sentenced to prison time this week after a tactic he ironically employed to avoid leaving behind clues at crime scenes ended up giving police the evidence that they needed to convict him. According to reports, between March 1st and May 22nd of this year, 40-year-old Ricky Thomas went on quite the crime spree, burglarizing a number of businesses in the village of Littleport. In each case, he would apparently steal anything he could get his hands on, though seemingly had a particular affinity for cigarettes and alcohol. However, during one of these burglaries in April at a McCall's convenience store, Thomas reportedly made a huge mistake. He had put a pair of socks on his hands to avoid leaving behind fingerprints, though evidently ended up taking one of them off while he was there. We know this because he left it behind at the scene. While authorities wouldn't end up catching Thomas for another month, when he also managed to get himself recorded on a store surveillance camera, it was this sock that would seal up the case. This was because police were able to obtain DNA from it, apparently linking him to multiple burglaries. Thomas ultimately pleaded guilty to 2 counts of burglary and 13 counts of theft, and this week was sentenced to 1 year and 8 months in prison. The government of Honduras announced that it is imposing curfews in 2 of the country's largest cities this week, following a horrific act of violence that claimed the lives of more than a dozen people. According to reports, the incident took place on June 24th at a pool hall in the city of Choloma. At the time, the business was hosting a birthday party when all of a sudden, heavily armed men showed up and opened fire on those in attendance. 12 men and 1 woman were later pronounced dead as a result of the attack, while several others were reportedly injured. While few other details have been released about the case at this time, authorities say they believe the attack was linked to drug trafficking gangs. The government announced the curfews in Choloma in response to the violence, saying that it would begin at 9 p.m. each night and last for at least 15 days. Officials stated that starting July 4th, the curfew would also be extended to the neighboring city of San Pedro Sula, where violent attacks linked to drug gangs claimed at least 7 other lives on the same night as the pool hall shooting. If you're a regular viewer of our Crimes of the Week International series, then you'll likely remember that just last week we reported on another tragic incident out of Honduras, where a terrifying attack led by gangs at a women's prison ended with the deaths of at least 46 people. Though this week's announcements were undoubtedly designed to show that the government is attempting to crack down on the ongoing violence across the country, it remains to be seen what, if any, effect these policies will have. Authorities in the South Korean port city of Busan say that a 23-year-old woman is officially facing charges this week following her arrest in connection with the brutal and disturbing murder of a female college student, a crime which they say the woman meticulously planned in advance. According to reports, the horrifying crime took place on May 26th when the suspect 23-year-old Jung Yu-jung traveled to the unidentified victim's home. Jung had reached out to her through an online platform where the university student worked as a freelance tutor, under the guise that she needed someone to teach her child English. In reality, Jung didn't have a child, though police say that was all part of her plan. Instead, she purchased a school uniform ahead of the meetup, wearing it to disguise herself as a high school student. Once she was inside the victim's residence, Jung allegedly attacked, stabbing the tutor more than 110 times. Once the victim was dead, Jung reportedly dismembered her, then went about disposing of the remains. She allegedly dumped most of them in a wooded riverside area north of the city, though police say that they also found remains in garbage bags during a subsequent search of Jung's home. Video surveillance taken near the victim's residence allegedly shows Jung getting into a taxi shortly after the crime while on her way to the dump site. She reportedly used a suitcase she brought with her to transport the remains, and had changed into some of the victim's clothes because her own were stained with blood. She also apparently took the victim's phone, ID, and wallet in an attempt to make it appear that she had disappeared of her own free will. Investigators now allege that Jung was trying to commit the, quote, perfect crime, an idea she had become obsessed with while consuming copious amounts of true crime-related content. Disturbingly, it's alleged that she reached out to as many as 54 different people through the online tutoring app she used to find the victim before deciding that she would make the best target for her plan. In a confession following her arrest, police claim Jung admitted to what she had done, saying that she had been driven by her curiosity about murder. Authorities say that she later scored very highly on a test measuring psychopathic traits. Jung is now facing multiple charges, including murder, destruction and abandonment of a dead body, and theft. She remains in police custody. Before we wrap up, we'd like to take a second to give a huge shout out to everyone who has made it this far into the video. Seriously, thank you so much for watching. If you found today's upload interesting and informative, we'd be honored if you'd consider liking and subscribing, as well as hitting the notification bell and selecting all notifications to stay up to date with our latest releases. If you're looking for additional ways to help support the channel, we'd love to have you join us over on Patreon. Patrons get ad-free and early access to all of our content, as well as 4 additional stories per week for each of our Crimes of the Week and Crimes of the Week International videos. You can learn more at patreon.com/crimezone, where you'll also find some of the fine folks whose names are currently on screen. All that being said, we understand that not everyone has the means to support financially, and that's totally okay. We appreciate every like, sub, share, and comment that you send our way. Once again, thanks so much everyone, and take care.